Good evening, everyone. Zat Hashem, today it's nice to come back to you from New York. Today we're going to speak about a very special topic, something that usually we don't hear so much. I'm going to speak about salt. Salt and the connection of salt to Judaism. Why did God created salt? Why we use salt for? How can we use salt for different things, not just for make the food tasty. Also, how salt, what's the energy of salt? And what Judaism says, how can we use salt for different things, for healing, for spiritual things, how salt has a connection to our marriage, education, the kids, that we educate the kids. How can we use salt for remove certain negative powers? Bezat Hashem, we're going to speak today. We're going to speak about the importance of salt in food, in bread, why we dip the bread 3 times in salt, why salt so important to be on the table, what it does. And we're going to speak about the Yam HaMelach, the Dead Sea, which called in Hebrew the Sea of Salt, because that's a very special place, Amakom Achi Namuch, the lowest place in the world. And we're going to see some facts, very interesting facts that brought down in Zohar, in Torah, in the Gemara, about the Dead Sea and how it was created, and some very interesting stuff from life that we can learn from the Dead Sea, and also where the power of healing of the Dead Sea comes from. Be'ezrat Hashem. And a lot more things we're going to speak today. So first of all, I want to start with maybe to speak about a little bit, to understand what salt and how it's important for our life. Each one of us has salt in his body. You can't live without salt. Salt has sodium, right? And we need that for our living. But not just us, also the animals and all the growings, in the world, they need salt for living. Salt, it's something that is very, very important to have. If you don't have enough salt in your body,
Dehydration.
Right, it caused a lot of sicknesses. That's not something we want to, right? We have to be careful we eat some salt. Some people, they say, I don't eat salt at all. That's not right, because a lot of things has salt in it, right? Even though if you don't put salt, it has salt in it. Salt is very, very important. God created that for a certain reason. Now we know every food has its own energy. Every food has its own energy. That's why, by the way, fruits has different colors. The colors of the fruits and of the food can tell us about the energy of that fruit, of that food. That's a whole thing that we have to learn, why carrots are orange and apples, we have red apples and we have green apples. There's different reasons why they're this color, because it says something about that, the energy, the power of that fruit. Same thing, salt has a certain energy. The energy of salt, according to Zohar and Torah, it's called dinim. Dinim is judgments, right? If you pay attention, when we cry, so the tears, they're salty. If you're going to take a tear and you're going to try to taste it, it's going to see it's salty. Now, it doesn't matter what you drink. You can drink Coke all day. If you're going to cry, it's still going to be salty. Why? Because Hashem created that for a few reasons. First of all, if the tears were sweet, we would not stop crying. Our body would want to cry and cry and cry and cry. Because the tears are salty, so because the tears are salty, the eyes wants to stop crying. So basically that's a big chesed, it's a kindness that Hashem did with us, that He created the tears that are salty, so therefore the eyes would want to stop crying. Because to cry too much, it's not good, right? Sometimes things happens in life and people just cry and cry. Because it's salty, it helps us, it helps the body to feel, I don't want to cry anymore because of that. But another reason, I think we spoke once about tears, right? Another reason why the tears are salty, it's because, as I said, salt symbolize power of judgments. There's two powers in the world. There's a power of kindness, which called in Hebrew chesed, and there's a power of judgment. Judgment, it's din. Yeah? Anything we can understand it in maybe in a different way. Kindness, it's the power of giving, and judgment is the power of taking. Those two powers can be positive and can be negative. It doesn't mean that taking is always negative. Taking can be sometimes positive, and kindness can be sometimes negative. When you give too much, that's very negative, right? When you give too much, for example, you have a child and you spoil the child, it's very negative. You ruin his life. And sometimes when you put borders to a person, you tell him this is you're not allowed to do and this is you're not allowed to do, that's the biggest kindness you can do with that person, because you give him borders, so therefore he knows how to live properly. So we can't say that judgment is negative and kindness is positive. Kindness has negative and positive, and judgment has negative and positive. But this is two powers that we all have in ourselves. By the way, mother and father, that's those two powers. That's why we have only two. Yeah? Mother and father. Why? Because father symbolizes the power of kindness, the mother symbolizes the power of judgment. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the children, the child, so the father gives him the ability to do kindness, and the mother gives him the ability to say no and to judgment, to put borders in his life. And by the way, if we remember, we spoke about respecting parents, I think, last time. And I don't know if I mentioned that in this lecture, but it's good to mention it right now, that the father, one of the reasons we have to respect our father and mother, even though they didn't raise us. Some people, I heard a story from someone that was talking to me about that his father didn't raise him. His father just, he was never in his life. And now he asks me, do I need to still respect him? He did only bad things to me. I grew up without a father, and he didn't support my mother, and all those stories. And he says, I don't feel I want to give him respect. What's the halakha says? What's the Torah says? The Torah says you have to respect him anyways. Yeah, all the rules of respecting. Like a father that did everything to you in life and gave you a lot of support and love, same thing, you have to respect that father. And the reason is, it's not a physical reason. It's not a simple reason, because the simple reason that we understand why we respect our parents, it's because akarat hatov, gratefulness. They were very good to us. They brought us to life. They Baruch Hashem raised us. So we want to give them back, so we respect them. But according to Kabbalah, that's not the reason we respect our parents. That's the simple reason. The deep reason is because every second you are alive, you get energy from your father and mother. Doesn't matter where are they. They can be in Australia. All the power of kindness that you have in life coming from your father to you. All the powers of judgment that you have in life, the power to say no, to put borders, to control your desires, this power comes from your mother. And it comes from her to you. That's why, because of that, you need to respect them. Your biological mother and father, right? So now go back to what we were saying. Power of judgment, power of kindness. So everything in life, it's divided to those two powers. There's stuff that are power of judgment, there's stuff that are power of kindness. It's very important to know what's the energy of everything. So salt, what we're talking about today, it's judgment. That's why it's salty, right? It's not sweet. Sweet, that's the opposite. Something that it's sweet, it's like kindness, very sweet. Salt, it's the opposite of sweet, and that's the power of judgment. Now we have to know how to use the power of judgment in the right way. That's B'ezrat Hashem what we're gonna talk in the class today. And there's a lot of mitzvot, a lot of commandments from the Torah that has to do with salt. We're going to get into them, and to understand them better, when we know the energy of the salt, we're going to understand every commandment, like I told you in the beginning, like dipping the bread in the salt, why we do that, and other things that I'm going to B'ezrat Hashem explain this class. So, as we said, salt is the power of judgment. That's why every person that eats salt has to know that there are certain things that can happen because... Sorry. Yeah. Thank you. There's certain things that can happen to your body. Your body reacts in a certain way when you eat salt. That's why too much salt, it's not good, but to not have salt at all, it's also not good. We have to be balanced. The Torah says that שלושה דברים רובם רע ומיעוטם יפה. There's three things that if you do them a lot, it's very bad. But if you do just a little bit, that's very good. What are they? One of them is se'or. Se'or, you know, when you make a dough, you put shmarim. Shmarim, it's the thing that makes the dough raise. How you call it? Yeast, right. So yeast, when you use a lot, it's ruin everything. You have to use a little bit. A little bit is good. When you use a lot, that's not good. The second thing, sarvanut. Sarvanut is when you say no to someone. Yeah, let's say someone tells you, lesarev. I don't know the word in English. I'm just trying to refuse. Oh, תודה רבה. בוא, תשב יותר קרוב, you help me. It's to refuse. Refusing a lot, it's bad. A little bit, it's good. Yeah? When do you need to refuse? You need to refuse, for example, the Gemara says, you know, in shul, in the synagogue, there's the chazan, the one that reads for everyone. So they say in the halacha, in the book of laws, if someone asks you and tells you, go be the chazan, please, we give you the honor to be the chazan, so you have to refuse. First time, you have to refuse. Why? Because if you don't refuse, it means like you think you are deserve, yeah, to be the chazan. Like you think you are such a righteous person that you go right away. No, you have to show a little bit of humbleness, you know, like be humble. So no, it's not me. I'm not. I don't deserve to be the chazan. That's refusing. But then if they ask you twice, so you go, right?
What
so.
About aliyah?
No, aliyah you're not allowed to refuse. If they tell you to go to the Torah, in this case you're not allowed to refuse. By the way, it's also dangerous to refuse. Especially if they mention your name. The Gemara says if they give you aliyah la Torah to go to the Torah, and they say your name, please, Yitzchak ben Moshe will go up to the Torah, and then you say no, you refuse, Chaz v'shalom can cause bad health issues. Even Chaz v'shalom, the Gemara says a person can die because of it. Earlier. So this is a very serious thing. Don't refuse. If they didn't mention your name, you can refuse. But if they mentioned your name, you have to go. But that's all about Aliyah la Torah. Why? Because of the respect of the Torah. How come people tell you go to the Torah? They tell your name. Everybody knows that you need to go to the Torah, and then you refuse. Means you embarrass the Torah, right? But when you refuse because you want to be humble, that's a good thing. So sometimes it's good to refuse. But the Gemara says don't refuse a lot, because then you become a very negative person. A little bit is good. And the third thing is salt. That's what the Gemara says. Salt, a little bit is good, a lot is very bad. So that's why we have to have salt in life, but just a little bit. Another thing, very interesting, the Navi, the prophet Yechezkel writes that in his time, 2,500 years ago, every baby that was born, they used to take a lot of salt and put on his skin. And the reason why they used to do that is because the salt gives the skin, makes the skin stronger, protects, makes the skin, gives it power to protect the body. And a lot of kids that were born back in the days, 2,000 years ago, the technology was not like we have today, and because of the weather and a lot of other things, and because of a lot of bacteria also, the babies used to die because they were very sensitive. One of the things to keep them not sensitive, to protect them, was putting salt in it. Today we see that bemet salt, it's antibacterial, right? The salt takes a lot of sometimes when you wanna clean something, yeah, you use salt. For example, on a pool, people that go to pools, right? We use chlor, which the salt also have chlor inside. Salt is sodium and chlor, right? So that's why when you don't want to use chlor, you want to be like more healthy. People that have pools or mikveh, they use salt because it cleans the water. It takes the bacteria, the negative things. So salt has this power to remove bacteria. That's why in Judaism, it's very interesting that our rabbis and the Torah and the Zohar were talking about that 3,000 years ago, before even people thought about bacteria. They said that salt removes negative powers. That's how salt described in Torah and Kabbalah. Remove negative powers. That's why we put salt on the table all the time. According to Kabbalah, Arizal says the salt should not be removed from the table. It should be there all the time, even when you not eat. Why? Because the table, that's the main fixing of the person. The main job in our life is eating. We came to this world, the first sin, Adam HaRishon, was eating, right? Now, of course, we don't understand really what happened there. It's very, very deep. We have to make a whole shiur about what really happened with Adam and Eve in heaven. It was very spiritual, not like we think. But it's described in the Torah as eating, because eating, that's one of the most important missions that we have in life. That's why if you pay attention, every holiday, every mitzvah, every commandment that we have in Torah has a certain connect to eating, right? Yeah, like they say the joke, all the Jewish holidays, how they make holidays. We say like, they wanted to kill us, we win them, let's eat something. That's how you... That's our religion in one sentence. So this is if you look very simple, but if you look deep inside, the reason we eat is because that's one of that's our main mission. And Bezat Hashem, you remind me to do a shiur, a class about eating, because eating, we need to do a few classes about eating, because eating, it's, as I told you, that's the mission of life, and we have to understand what we do when we eat. When you eat, you fix. You elevate souls that are reincarnate inside the food. You elevate sparks of holiness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put in this world from the upper worlds, and you basically fix all the worlds and you bring them back to the original, how it started, the world started, yeah? So that's why eating, that's one of the main things in life. So, because this is so important, the Yetzer Hara, the bad forces, they called in the Zohar Sitra Achra. Sitra Achra, it's the negative side, the other side. Sitra Achra in Aramaic, it's the other side, that's the translation of it. The other side, which is the negative powers, they don't have energy, they don't have food, they don't have life, unless they take it from the holiness, from the Kedusha. Right? So right away when they see something very holy, something very important, a Jew make his mission in life, he is elevating souls, he's elevating sparks. What the negative forces do, they right away come to take something. That's why the eating, it's a big deal in Judaism. We have a lot of rules, how to do that, and when to do that, and the way, with certain blessings. This is all basically fighting those negative powers, energies that come to take a part from the mission that we do. Yeah, we're gonna get soon to the Mayim Achronim, the water that we wash the hands after meal. That's because of that. In a second we're going to go into it. But before that, we have to understand that the reason the reason why the Arizal says salt should be always on the table, it's because all the negative powers comes to the table because the main mission of a Jew is eating. So they come right away, and they're very strong at the time that we eat. So that's why we need a lot of protection. We need to take all the spiritual bacteria out. How do we do that? The salt helps that. And that's why salt on the table is very, very important, especially when we eat the bread. Bread, it's a very, we need to make a whole class about bread. I wanted to do that, B'ezrat Hashem, soon. Bread is a very important thing. The bread, if you realize in Judaism, we give it a lot of respect. Yeah, more than any other type of food, right? Grapes are important. We give them also certain respect. Dates, Shivat Aminim, the 7 fruits of the land of Israel, right? Dates. But bread has something special. First of all, it has its own blessing. Not like all the fruits that we say, Borei Pri Ha'etz. Yeah? We're blessed for the fruits of the tree, for all the kinds of fruits, or the fruits of the land. The bread has its own blessing. And for eating bread, you can't just grab the bread and eat it. You have a whole process. You have to wash your hands. If you want to eat grapes, you don't need to wash your hands. But when you eat bread, you have to wash your hands, make a bracha. Then you take the bread, you make a bracha. And then you sit and you bite, and you have to eat kazai, 27 grams. And after that, when you finish, you have to do mayim achronim. Have a little bit of water on your fingers, which we're going to explain soon. And then you make birkat hamazon, which is 4 blessings after. It's a big deal. Any other type of food doesn't have it. And the reason is because every type of food has a certain spark, holy energy that we fix when we eat it. And bread has a very, very big spark.
Rabbi, you don't do birkat hamazon if you're alone, right?
You do birkat hamazon when you're alone. You don't do zimun when you're alone. Now, because bread has such a big spark, a big energy, it's a big fixing. That's why we need more preparations and more blessing to fix that. So that's why we do all this process. So the bread is very important. Now, because the bread is so important, the bread needs more protection. When we eat bread, we need to dip it in the salt. Because the salt, as I said, removes judgment. Salt symbolizes positive judgments, and they remove the negative judgments. So that's why we dip it in the salt. Now, why we dip it 3 times in the salt? Because the name of kindness, the name that brings kindness to the world, it's called Shem Havaya, the name of God, the main name of God. This name is the 4 letters that we're not allowed to say them, Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey. That's the 4 letters that the whole world was created with them. And when Hashem brings power of kindness to the world, Shefa, a positive energy, it always comes from that name. From Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey. If we're going to take the numerical value of this name, Yud and Hey and Vav, and Yud is 10, Hey is 5, Vav is 6, Hey is 5, is 26. So 26. 26, that's the gematria of the name of Hashem, the numerical value. Salt, it's very interesting. Salt is melach, right? Melach, the numerical value is mem is 40, lamed is 30, right? So we have 70, and chet is 8. Chet is 8, right? Aleph, bet, gimel, dalet, hey, vav, zayin, chet, it's 8. So 78, that's the numerical value of salt. It's very interesting that the same letter of melach, if you flip the letters, it's going to be lechem, bread. Bread and salt, it's the same letter and it's the same numerical value. Bread is 78 and salt is 78. Now, when we dip the bread, which is symbolized kindness, and has a big fixing, has a big spark that we want to elevate when we eat it, we dip it in the salt, so we take off all the negative powers, so they don't take anything from the eating that we do right now. So why we dip it 3 times? Because the name of Hashem, the name of kindness, 26, we have it in mind. 1, 26, 2, 26, 3, 26. 26 plus 26 plus 26, also 78. Same numerical value of bread, same numerical value of salt. So that's the Kabbalistic intention we have when we do the salt, and that's why we do it 3 times. Okay, so basically we're sweetening the judgments. Yeah, and by the way, if a person has a certain problem in life, he can use that as sweetening that problem. Let's say, chas v'shalom, I don't know, your kids doesn't behave. So it's judgment at home, right? It's judgment, it's a negative thing. And you want to fix it. So what you do, when you eat bread and you dip it 3 times in salt, have in mind to sweeten that problem. To fix it, sweet it. Make it good, right? That's one of the things. Or if a person feels tired, he feels very weak, he can have in mind 3 times the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, 26, 26, 26. That's the gematria of lechem, salt, bread and salt. That's all this combination. It's very powerful. And that's why we do it 3 times. So the salt is on the table to take off those negative powers, all the bad bacteria, the spiritual bacteria. And also, when we take bread, we need it more, because bread has more holiness. There's more bacteria. Yeah, sitra achad comes more. So we need mamash to dip it in the salt. That's why it's very good to have food with salt, because the salt, as we said, takes these negative things. That's why a lot of people, they use salt for other things, like against evil eye, because again, it takes negative powers. Takes it off, right? So a lot of times you can use salt for different things. They remove the negativity, and then you can get a certain a positive thing. Yeah. So for example, I saw in one of the books. It's even it's interesting. You can even know using salt if a lady that she's pregnant, if she has a boy and a girl. Mm-hmm. How? So I saw in one of the books, you take salt, you put it on her head, and she should not know that you did it. Yeah, you put it on her head, and then you start to speak to her. And if the first words that she says, it's nekeva, it's like a female ending. Yeah. So that means she has a female. And if it's she says like who, he. Right, so it means it's a boy, right? So why the salt? How come the salt? Because the salt to remove those negative powers, so the person is more clean. Whatever he says, that's what he has inside, right? So we see other places, for example, in the holy books, it's brought down that you can use salt for I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but just I'm going to tell you the concept, because I'm afraid to say it. For example, in certain cases, there's no shalom bayit, there's no peace at home, because let's say the husband doesn't like his wife, yeah, or the wife doesn't like her husband. So sometimes the Kabbalists, they see that that's an urgent case. They would say to the husband to take salt, to put it on fire, and then to say certain things that I'm not going to tell you right now, so you don't use it. To say certain things, and then it makes her love him. So why use salt? Because again, the salt, yeah, and it's working. Why?
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
I'm sure it does. Isn't it magic?
It's not magic. That's
forbidden, no?
Huh?
It's forbidden.
It's not forbidden. Certain things that the goyim do, they use black magic. This is forbidden.
That's forbidden.
Yeah, but things that are brought down in Kabbalah books, that's a white magic. Let's call it like this. Okay, because you use the positive powers, right? Certain things are allowed. Yeah.
You dip the bread every time or just for Shabbat?
Every time. And by the way, if you don't have salt to dip the bread, today in our times, back in the days when they used to eat bread, the bread didn't have salt in it. Today every bread has salt. So basically, you can take the bread, you can break the bread, and then you can dip it 3 times in the other
Piece of bread.
piece of bread, because that piece of bread has salt, right? Or in the salad. Yeah, sometimes it happens, for example, in our shul, in our synagogue, someone didn't bring the salt, and I did a motzi lechem min haaretz, I did the blessing, so I dip it in the salad. Why? Because the salad has salt, right? So that's also fine. So you see that the salt has a very, very interesting power. They use it for different things, yeah, to bring love. Because again, why there's no love? Why there's no love? Because there's negativity. There's sitra achra that is between the husband and the wife. So when you take the salt and you do a certain thing with the salt, yeah, you can remove this border, and you can make you can make them love each other, right? Or for example, we have a very interesting zgula that we do on Sfirat HaOmer. Sfirat HaOmer, it's a 49 days after Pesach until Shavuot. We have 49 days. Those 49 days are very, very important days. Be'ezrat Hashem, bli neder, when we're going to get to there, we're going to explain the power of those days, because we build our soul in those days. Yeah, every Pesach, every Passover, you get a new soul. And it's like a child. He just got a new soul, but slowly, he gets mature. Start to walk, start to talk. Same thing happens to each one of us every Passover. We get a new soul, and we build the soul for 49 days. Like Am Yisrael, when they went out of Egypt, they got a new soul, and they built it for 49 days, and then they received the Torah on Shavuot, on the 50 days. So on Sfirat HaOmer, there's a very interesting custom. You're going to see it in Moroccan shuls usually, and also in Bukhari and Iraqi also do that. They take a bag of salt, and they say the bracha of Sfirat HaOmer, the first bracha in the first day. They say it on the salt, so the salt absorbs the blessing, the holy blessing of Sfirat HaOmer, and then you can use the salt for healing, because the power of salt, which takes the negative powers, and also the bracha of Sfirat HaOmer, which is a very, very high level of blessing, when they combine together, it makes the salt, gives it a lot of power of healing. So if chas v'shalom someone has a disease or something, or a petza, איך אומרים petza?
A wound.
Huh?
A wound, a cut, a scratch.
Yeah, a cut, a scratch, right? And he puts the salt on this, the salt that we blessed on Sfirat HaOmer, it can help it heal. Or if you have a pain somewhere, chas v'shalom, in your body, you can put that salt there. And of course, always it's good to add a prayer. You can just speak to Hashem in your own language. Say, Ribono shel olam, berachamecha rabim, with your mercy, please heal my my hand, my ear, whatever. Put the salt. The salt has the power, and this is working, bemet. So you see that we use salt for different, even remove pain from different places. So this is another way of using salt. Sometimes I said we're gonna speak about mayim acharonim thing. By the way, the concept of mayim acharonim, wash our hands after a meal, after we eat bread, before we recite the Birkat HaMazon, that's a very important mitzvah. And in the Gemara, it's brought down the simple reason why we do that. The Gemara says that back in the days of the Talmud and the Gemara and the Torah, the salt was very strong. And most of the people, when they used to eat bread or a meal, they used to use a certain type of salt called melach sedomit. The melach from Sdom. Sdom, we're going to see soon that the Dead Sea was Sdom. That's Sdom and Amorah, those two cities that God destroyed them because they didn't have kindness at all. Those places, became the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea was not created in the creation of the world. Hashem created the ocean. He created the Eastern Yam HaTichon, the Middle East Sea. Yeah, He created all the other places and the 6 days of creation. But the Dead Sea, the Gemara, the Rashi says in Parashat Lech Lecha that the Dead Sea was not created on Sheshet Yemei Bereshit, the 6 days of creation. It's created after Hashem destroyed Sdom and Amorah. And if we already spoke about Yam HaMelech, maybe that's the place to mention why Hashem decided to make this place, first of all, the lowest place in the world. And second of all, we call it the Dead Sea. There's no life there. Even fish and nothing, can live at that sea, which is very weird. And I think just by looking at the Dead Sea and the information that I'm just going to tell you right now, you can understand how Torah is right and how Hashem is real. Yeah? Look, the Dead Sea is a very interesting sea because, first of all, it's the lowest placed. Why Hashem make it the lowest place in the world? Because Hashem wanted to show us something. The Dead Sea was Sodom and Amorah. Sodom and Amorah was two cities that, as it described in the Torah, those cities were heaven. And that's why Lot, the nephew of Avraham, when Avraham told him, listen, we are too big, we have too much, sheep and cows and things, and there's already problem between our slaves and so he told him, let's separate. And Avraham gave him the opportunity to choose. He says, if you're going to go to the right side, I'm going to go to the left side. If you're going to go to the left side, I'm going to do the right side. So Lot thought, okay, where should I go? And he says, I want to go to the best place, to heaven. Where was it? On Sodom and Amorah. Sodom and Amorah, the weather was perfect in Sodom and Amorah. The land of Sodom and Amorah was so good. The fruits, the trees, the grass, everything was growing so good, and that's why they were very wealthy. There was a lot of blessing in that place. The people of Sodom and Amorah, because they were so spoiled, because they had everything, that caused them to forget about God. That caused them to become cruel to each other. And we know that those two cities, they had rules. It's called the rules of Sodom and Amorah. Those rules were against human logic that we understand today. For example, if you have guests in your house, you have to die, or you go to jail. Like, you're not allowed to have guests. Why? Because kindness, it's not allowed in our place. Sodom and Amorah, the rule was, mine is mine, and yours also can be mine. You know, the Mishnah says that there's few types of people. The Hasidim, the best people, they say, yours is yours, and mine is yours also. Yeah? And they say, and people that are Benoni, that are the middle class, they say, yours is yours is yours, and mine is mine. And it says, the Sodom and Amorah people, yours is mine, and mine is mine, everything is mine, and that was their logic, and they just hate kindness. And then Hashem says, I'm going to destroy Sodom. Avraham tried to pray on them. He was not successful because in Sodom there was even not 10 people that were good. Like, completely, everybody, like, they had less than 10 people that were positive, and they had kindness. The pasuk say, Olam chesed yibaneh, the world is built on kindness. And that's why, if you don't have kindness, you don't have a reason to leave. So Hashem destroyed this place, and He wanted to show the whole world that when you don't do kindness, you are the lowest person in the world. That's why this place is the lowest place in the world, to show you that they were very, very low. When you have no kindness in life, you don't do for others, you just think about yourself, you are very low. That's the Dead Sea. And not just here you are very low, you're not considered as leaving. This place that doesn't deserve life. And that's why Hashem made this place dead for the rest of the history. Like, all the time, until Mashiach comes, it's gonna be a Dead Sea, because those people, they did the opposite of what God wants in the world, which is kindness and giving. So, by the way, something very, very interesting about the Dead Sea is why there's so much salt in the Dead Sea. You know, there's I'm going to tell you a big secret right now in Kabbalah. Look at all the oceans or the lakes that we have in the world. Some oceans are salty. The lakes usually are sweet. And the Dead Sea is very salty, like everything is salt. Why is this like that? So the reason is when the water comes to a certain place, there's few types of lakes and oceans. If the ocean takes water from another place and gives it out also, yeah? If it takes from another place and gives it out, so this place is going to be salty. He takes water from other places and he gives out to another places. Right? No, sorry, 1 second. Yeah, no. The ocean usually gives water to other places. That's the ocean. That's why the ocean is salty. Lakes, they get water from certain places and they give it to other places, right? For example, Kinneret. You know the Kinneret in Israel? So they get water from the Banias and the Jordan River. And then it goes where? To the Dead Sea. The water from the Kinneret goes to the Dead Sea. So the Kinneret is sweet. Why? Because it gets water and gives water. The ocean gives water. Has a lot of water and it gives water, so it's salty. So, no, the ocean also gets water. The ocean also gets water. Of course it gets water, but it doesn't give a lot of water. It gives a little bit. It doesn't give a lot. The Kinneret gives a lot. Whatever she gets, she gives. That's the lake. The ocean gets a lot, but give a little bit. The Dead Sea, it doesn't give. It just gets. The Dead Sea doesn't give any water to any place.
Where does the water go?
It just stay there. And because it's
All the water comes from Kinneret. All the
right, and because the Dead Sea
overflow.
right, that's why that's how the salt became there. And because it's a very hot place, all the water, right? It's the lowest place in the world. So the Dead Sea, and because of that, it has a lot of salt. That's what in science also you can see it also. The scientists, they say that. Now, if we're gonna look deep inside that, we're gonna see a perfect rule in the world. Hashem created the world for us to give. A sweet lake, yeah? Why the water are sweet? Because it does its purpose. What's the purpose? You receive, and whatever you receive for giving. All what I get in life is because I want to give it back. For example, you get money because you want to raise your kids. At the end, I want to give them. I want to make other people, I give donations. I want other people to enjoy the money that I have. That's the Kinneret, that's the lake. And that's sweet, that's very good, that's the perfect, that's the highest level. The ocean gets a lot and gives a little bit. So it becomes salty, dinim, judgment. That's not the best. The Dead Sea only takes. Give me, and it doesn't give to anyone. That's why it has a lot of salt. And that's why it's Dom and Amorah. That's their mentality. We take to ourselves and we don't give to anyone. Right? So that's the Dead Sea. From here we see how we can study from the Dead Sea the purpose of life. The purpose of life is whatever you get, you have to give. And by the way, if what you get you don't give, you get a lot of salt, judgments, problems. That's a rule. Yeah.
Why is it so healing? Let's see.
Lots of?
Healing.
Right, because I told you, because it's judgment, the salt and the negative powers of the world, they are very similar. They are come from the same place, judgments. Right? So, when you have a minus and minus, and you try to put them together, they just... Right. When the negative powers see salt, right, which it's the same, it's them. It's kind of takes them out. It's or salt or them. You understand? Because that's the power of judgment. It's like 2 minus. Now, the rule that I just said, that's a very, very, very important rule for life. When you get and you don't give, like the Dead Sea, you basically become dead. You don't deserve life because Hashem created you to give and you're not giving. So this is the cause of all problems in life. All judgments that we have in life, the cause of it is that we get and we don't give. Now, by the way, if we're going to take it to healing, heal your body. Let's say you have a pain or you have a problem in a certain area in the body. The problem that you have there, it's because that in that organ, you only take and you don't give. For example, people that has problems with marriage. Why do they have problems in marriage? And how can they solve the problems in marriage? The problems in marriage, whatever you see the problem, it means there's judgments, there's salt there. Why there's salt there? Because there's only taking, there's no giving enough. There's no enough of giving. When there's going to be enough of giving it there, the problem will go away. Same thing is in raising kids. Right? Some parents, they say, I give everything to my kids. If you give everything to your kids, there's no possibility that your kids are not going to be the best kids. You give them maybe materials things. But the most important things in life, which is love, attention, confidence, we don't give it to our kids. We just don't give. And because we don't give, there's a problem. When you're going to start to give, yesterday in New York, I met a family. Their kid was doing a lot of problems. Started to take drugs and sell drugs and do crazy things, and they have no control on him. And
How old is he?
he was like 18 years old. And I spoke to the parents and I told them, listen, the kid didn't get love in life. The kid needs a lot of attention. You don't have time to give him attention. You don't have time to give him support, confidence, love, hugs. And they agree with me. They say, that's right. We didn't. We just didn't. And now he gets it from his friend. When he takes, drugs and he sells, and he has money, and then he can show off. And then his friends telling, wow, you're great. You have, you this, you that. Whatever he didn't get from his parents, he gets it from other people. So there was a lack of love, something missing. Yeah, you don't give. So when you don't give, there's a lot of salt, there's a lot of judgment, there's problems coming down. When you're going to start to give to the problem, you're going to be like the Kinneret, like you take water, Hashem gives you energy, gives you blessing, give it out. Give it out the best way you can. When you give it out, so you are sweet. So there's no judgments in life. Right? So let's go back to the Melach Sedomit. So the Melach, there is a certain type of salt that's called the salt of Sdom. Salt of the Dead Sea. That's what people used to use back then in the days. Now, by the way, every year that pass, the whole world, the level the spiritual level and the physical level of the world goes down and down. So for example, last year, the fruits were more tasty than this year. And this year, the fruits and the vegetables and the power of salt, the saltiness, of the salt is going to be, in this year, is going to be a lot more strong than next year. Because there's a rule in Judaism and Kabbalah, there's Yeridat Adorot. The world go down and down and down. We lose power. Everything lose power. 100 years ago, if you eat a watermelon, you enjoyed 10 times more than you eat a watermelon today. I ask my parents, they always tell me, watermelons that we used to eat, well, this is a watermelon, like 20 years ago, Today it's plastic. Not just because of of course it's also the hormones and the thing, but even if you go to organic, go buy organic, it's not going to be the same because there's Yeridat Adorot, the world is going down. Same thing as our power. Your grandmother, she had a lot of more power than you. We are weak compared to them. We are very weak. We sit all day in the office and we come home, we're like, I'm killed, I can't, I need to sleep, I have no power. They used to work physically to do things and they come home and they still have power. How come? The world's going down and down. Same thing is the salt. The salt back then, 2,000 years ago, the salt was very strong. So the Gemara says, when you eat, and you have to eat with salt, and so before Birkat HaMazon, you have to wash your hands. Why? Because if you're going to, by mistake, you're going to touch your eye with a little bit of that salt, you can become blind. So the Gemara says, because of a danger, we would suggest to do Mayim Acharonim. That's the simple explanation of the Gemara. Comes the Zohar and says, 1 second, our rabbis, they have, when every commandment we have in Torah has the deep reason and has the simple reason for everyone to know. Because also a 5-year-old kid learns the Torah. You cannot explain Kabbalistic things to a 5-year-old kid. You have to explain him a simple reason. Abba, why do I do my macharonim? Why do I need to wash my hands after a meal? You cannot tell him what I'm going to tell you right now, the deep meaning. So the simple meaning is, listen, the salt is dangerous. We have to wash our hands so nothing will happen. Oh, but today the salt is not dangerous anymore. It's not strong like it used to be back in the day. Yeah, but we still keep the tradition. That's the answer. Now let's go deeper. Really, that's just a cover. That's just a simple reason. The real reason behind that is, as I told you in the beginning, because the time that we eat, it's the most important time in life. That's the biggest mission, the biggest fixing, the elevating all those sparks and souls and reincarnated souls. That's why the Sitra Achra, the bad powers comes. They want to get some energy, they want to get some power from the mitzvah that we do. So what we do, we have to take them out. So we have salt on the table. But 1 second, they still can take something. We can't fight them all the time. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says you have to give him something. So what do we give to the other side? We give them Mayim Acharonim. We give them this mitzvah. One part of all those holy things that we do during the meal, the blessings and the way of eating and the intentions and the Torah learning and everything, we give them one part. What? The small water that we do before, that's your part. So take a little bit of energy and don't bother me. Why? Because they're so strong, those negative powers, that you have to give them something. We do the same thing on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, in the temple, in Bet HaMikdash, they used to do a lot of sacrifice. Those sacrifices, if we're going to learn deep why we do that, it's blowing mind. This is a very, very holy spiritual thing, to sacrifice an animal. For simple people, it looks like cruel, but this is very, very deep. You fix that animal. And in Yom Kippur, the holy day of Yom Kippur, you know what we do? We give a goat to the evil. We do sacrifice, we do big tikkunim, big fixings, and we give also a part to the bad negative powers. We give them a goat. We take the goat, the Kohen HaGadol takes the goat and throw the goat from the mountain. And he says, this is the part of the Sitra Achra. This is your part. Don't bother us on Yom Kippur. We gave you your thing. Yeah. So we have that. By the way, the same concept we have in Tefillin. I'm telling you big secrets right now. In Tefillin, I don't know if you realized, there's like few hairs that come out of the Tefillin. Someone told me, because I make Tefillin, so I checked his Tefillin, and he told me, Rabbi, I think you did a small mistake. I have some hairs coming out from the Tefillin. Like, I think you didn't finish the sewing of the tefillin. So I told him, listen, those hairs are by that's why we need those hairs. So I explained him, the Zohar Kadosh say, tefillin is so holy, you get such a big light when you put tefillin. The Sitra Achra is mad at you. And you can't fight him fully, so you have to give him a certain part. So you give him those hair, he can grab there and take small light from your tefillin also. That's his part. That's why the Zohar says, don't give him too much. Some people, those hairs are very big. It's not good. It says, give him pachot miseora. A wheat? So those hairs has to be less than
Grain.
less than a grain, yeah. And even according to Kabbalah, the Zohar says, give him only one hair. That's it. Usually we have few hairs. The Zohar says, give him one hair. Just give him a little bit. Why do you give him a lot? Same thing, Mayim Achronim. Mayim Achronim, that's why you do a little bit. You don't wash the whole hand. You wash up until your finger. Some people, they make a mistake. They just, the end of the fingers. They're not right. According to Kabbalah, you have all the fingers. You have to wash all the fingers, but don't give too much water. Why? Again, this is their problem. We don't give them too much, but we give them something. We have to. And by the way, if you don't do that, now you're going to recite the Birkat HaMazon, and you're going to have a big fight with them. They're gonna bother you after. Why? You didn't take them out. That's why Mayim Achronim is very important. Some people, even women, I don't know, some customs women doesn't do. According to Kabbalah, women has to do Mayim Achronim. Women and men. That's very important. So we do Mayim Achronim, but we say Mayim Achronim Chova. What's Chova? Chova, it's a must. Why it's a must? Because it's if you don't do it, you ruin the process of Birkat HaMazon and all the lights that you have to get, because the evil can get something from that. So you have to give him its part. I know it's very deep things, but we have to know them. So that's what's called Melach Sedomit. Why we do Mayim Achronim? Because of the Sdom salt. What's the Sdom salt? Sdom, who was the angel of Sdom? The evil. So we give him, it's because of him, we give him that part, so he doesn't bother us in our mitzvah, in our eating, and in our Birkat HaMazon, the blessing that we recite. Yeah.
So when we do the Mayim Achronim,
Right after we finish eating.
so every meal, every day, or once?
Every day when you eat bread, you do Mayim Achronim after eating the bread. You finished? You do Birkat HaMazon. Right before Birkat HaMazon, you do Mayim Achronim. Okay?
It's Netilat Yadayim? No.
It's not Netilat Yadayim, it's just the fingers. A little bit of water on the fingers. By the way, the water that comes out of the Mayim Achronim, we're not allowed to do it on the floor. Why? Let's say you go to a picnic. Outside. In the backyard. You eat in the backyard. You eat a sandwich in your backyard. So, Mayim Achronim, okay, so I'll do it on the grass. No. If people step on it, that's a big tum'ah. It's the part of the Sitra Achra. It's the part of the negative powers. You put it on the ground, people will step on it. Chaz v'shalom, it can cause bad things to those people that step on it. So what do? You put it on a vessel, and then the water, you put it on the sink, or to the washroom, or to a place that there's nobody walking there. Right? But it has to be into a vessel, or right?
When you're traveling and you're in a
So what? You take a glass, you take a small cup, and you do it in the cup, and you put something so it doesn't spill, right? And then you throw it out in the garbage. But it's very important so people doesn't step on it. Yeah. Okay. Now there's every sacrifice that a person would bring to the Beit HaMikdash, to the temple, has to be with salt. B'chol korbancha takriv melech. Again, every korban, every sacrifice has a certain fixing, elevating us of the soul. I'm not going to explain you all of that. I'm just going to touch it a little because people have a lot of, in their heart, people have this question all the time. How come Torah says to kill an animal for God? And we don't kill an animal for God. God doesn't want us to kill with no reason. Animal were created for a certain reason. For us. The animal has a soul. Usually, it's a reincarnate of a person that does a certain avera, does a certain sin, and he didn't regret and he didn't fix that sin in his life. Sometimes for that fixing, he would need to reincarnate in an animal. Just give you an example. A person, the Arizal says, he brings every avera, every sin that a person does and didn't fix it in his life, what animal he will be reincarnated into. For example, a person that shaves, a man that shaves with a razor, that's not allowed. It says 5 times in the Torah to not shave with a razor. Yeah? So every person that shaves all beard with razor, he does 5 sins on the spot. It's like eating pork 5 times, according to Torah. It's not allowed to shave with a razor. Okay, so we shave with the machine. But the razor, it's not allowed. A person that did shave with a razor, and he knew that it's not allowed, and he didn't fix that sin in his life, he didn't regret and did all the thing, and he continued doing it and he passed away. In the world to come, when he comes to the next world, they will bring him in to fix that sin. What's going to be the fixing? One of the things, it's of course it depends on a lot of things, but in general, it would be reincarnated in a cow. And that's why it says, Lo tashchit pe'at zekanecha. Okay? Lo tashchit pe'at roshecha. If you take this sentence that talks about the razor, the Rashi Tevot, the first letter of every word, it's going to be Pei Reish Taf, Tashchit Pe'at Roshecha. So it's going to be parot, cows. It's even hinted in the sentence in the Torah. Yeah. Another thing, like other things that people do, Chaz v'Shalom, the way they behave to their parents, if they don't respect their parents or they do something bad to them, or to other people, sometimes you reincarnate. When you steal and you didn't fix that sin, sometimes you would need to reincarnate in a certain animal or certain even growing, like a flower or a vegetable sometimes. Yeah. Again, we need to do a whole class about that. I know it's a little bit sounds weird, but there's also proofs for this. Yeah, Ronen.
Some people are reincarnated into the walls.
Into what?
To the walls.
Walls, right.
The floor.
And water.
Siddur.
By the way, so Arizal says that every time we eat. So let's go back before we say that. So when we sacrifice a certain korban, yeah, and for every sin there's a different type of sacrifice. Sometimes it's a lamb, sometimes it's going to be a flower. Sometimes it's not always an animal. Sometimes it's a flower. Sometimes it's a flower with a solid. No, it's in Russian. It's called mana. Mana kasha. Yeah.
Okay.
So this one is solid. I don't know how to say it in English. And like couscous. You know couscous? Huh?
Millet.
No, it's not millet. It's not
No,
millet.
it's not.
Yeah. You know what you make couscous from? So the couscous. Yeah, it's called solid. Sometimes you have to take the solid with oil, and you make a sacrifice from that. Sometimes you would take a bird, yeah, a certain type of a bird, and you sacrifice. Sometimes it's gonna be it all depends on the sins. Now, why is that? Because every time a person makes a sin, a certain part of his soul goes away. And this part reincarnate kind of, into the animal. And that animal, Hashem makes it that you will purchase the next animal, you will buy it, and you will bring it to the Beit HaMikdash. So this animal, it's you. It's your soul. Now you have to elevate it. How you elevate it? You bring it to the temple, to the holiest place, and you shecht it, and you kill it, and then the Kohen, a very high level person, eats that and elevates what you could not elevate in your life because of your sin. That's very deep. So, same thing, by the way, we spoke about reincarnation in animals and in food. So, the Arizal, he has a whole book called the Book of Reincarnations, Shara Gilgulim, the Gate of Reincarnations. And he writes there, he brings every sin and what reincarnate and when and how and why and who. Very interesting book. It's a Kabbalah book. And he says there that there's a big question about salt. What's the question? Because there's different types of reincarnation. You can reincarnate in an animal, which is one level. And a person can reincarnate in a vegetable, which is a second level. And a person can reincarnate in anonymate. איך אומרים דומם? Anonymate. Something that doesn't move. So, which is the third level. Now, there was a question. Now, the Arizal says if something is reincarnated in anonymate, the fixing is a lot harder. Why? Because he has to elevate himself from an anonymate to a vegetable, and from a vegetable to an animal, and from an animal to a human being, and then to be fixed, which is like 4 steps, right? And that's very hard. So this soul has to come few times to this world. After finish the job to being a table, now it has to be a cucumber, and then after that be a chicken, and then after that get into a human being. That's a whole process. So Arizal says sometimes there's certain souls that someone pray for them. Yeah, let's say someone did a big sin. He needed to reincarnate in a stone of a certain place, and then, or he needed to reincarnate in a sand. Okay, so he is a sand now. And now this soul, you buy lettuce, and you wash the lettuce, but you didn't wash it well. And one little grain of sand was in the lettuce, and you made a bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem, Porei Pri Adama. You did it properly, so you elevate that lettuce to from being a vegetable 2 steps to being a human being. So that vegetable got 2 steps up, which is a big zchut, it's a big merit. But the sand that was there, he got 3 levels up, right? So Arizal says sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's a certain soul that she has a merit to be eaten by a tzaddik, by a righteous person, that by mistake eats a certain type of sand, to elevate it in one time. Doesn't mean you have to eat sand right now, right? But that's it. So Arizal says, but 1 second, maybe that's the thing of salt. Salt, it's an enemy. Now there was a big discussion in Chachamim, in the rabbis, what salt means. Salt, it's anonymate, or salt, it's a growing. Arizal says, and that's a big chidush, salt, it's a growing thing. Salt, it's not anonymate. That's why, by the way, the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat says that if you take salt out of the sea, it's called kotzer. Kotzer, it's cutting it from its source. On Shabbat you're not allowed to cut wheat. You're not allowed to cut something from the tree. Yeah. So he says if you take salt out of the sea, that's called cutting. Why? Because it's a growing. That's why when you eat salt, you fix a growing, so it's only 2 levels of fixing. But he says that's the middle thing. Like we have anonymate, we have growings, and we have animals. And in each place, and we have human being. And in each place, the Gemara says there's the middle side. So from anonymate to vegetable, the middle is salt. because it's half inanimate, half vegetable. Between the growings and the animals, the Gemara says there's something called kochav yam. You know what's kochav yam? Kochav yam is the starfish. Yeah, the starfish. It's like it's like growing, yeah, but it's also like alive a little bit, like an animal. Or he says that there's certain types of growings that they eat. You know those flowers that they eat. Those they're in between, and between animal and human being, the Gemara says it's the monkey. And I don't know, maybe Darwin got his theory from that Gemara, but the monkey is right in the middle from the animal and the human being, because the monkey is the most it's the closest to human being. Now Darwin says that we came from the monkeys, but really he didn't read the Midrash. Midrash Rabbi says that when Hashem created the world, He created monkeys, but not all the type of monkeys. The gorillas, which are the most close to us, they were created 1,000 something, almost 1,500 years after the creation of the world. When in the generation of after Noach, Dora Palaga, the generation of the Palaga. Why? Because they built a big building, the Babylon Tower, and they wanted to kind of fight God. Now, it's very deep. The Zohar explains that they were not stupid people, yeah? Like, we're going to reach God and we're going to fight Him. That's not what it means. It says there that they had all one language. That's what the Torah say. What was the language? Hebrew language. The Hebrew language was the only language in the world in the first almost 2,000 years. And the language of Hebrew has the secrets of the world. God created the world with the language. And the people of Babylon, they knew the secrets of the language. They studied from Adam and Eve and all the Hevel and Cain. They knew all this because they were talking to God. And they knew how to rule the world by saying those names. When you say a name of a certain angel, you as a human being, you can control that angel and tell him what to do. That's called practical Kabbalah. That's something we're not allowed to do. Even if you know how to do that, we're not allowed to do today. It's very dangerous to do. Practical Kabbalah means you know every angel of everything in the world, because everything has an angel. The sky has an angel, the clouds has an angel, the trees has an angel. And when you know the name of that angel, which is brought in our books of Kabbalah, you can lehashbia, to swear that angel and to tell him what to do. And you can send that angel to do something bad to someone, or to tell him, okay, now this tree is gonna grow in 1 second. You can create an animal with speech. So that's what they used to do. So they said, we don't need God anymore. We know all the secrets of the world. We can do things by ourselves. We don't need you. That means they went against God. So what did God do? Change His language. So now no more secrets. You don't know that anymore. So that's basically solved all the problems. So there was, the Midrash said that there were two groups of people that they were the worst. They were mamash going against God all the way. And the punishment that Hashem gave them, not just changed their language, He made them elephants and big monkeys, gorillas. That's a Midrash 2,500 years ago. So, and it's called Kofei Adam, a monkey like a human being, and also elephants. That's why until today, when you go to the zoo, and the first time you see an elephant or you see a gorilla, you have a certain blessing. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam meshaneh ha'beriot, changing the creations. When you see a gorilla, you have to say this blessing. Why? Because the gorilla, chas v'shalom, we didn't come from the gorilla came from us. That's that group of people that were doing whatever they did. You know? Darwin lived 200 years ago. This is written 2,000 years ago. So Baruch Hashem, that's the... so the salt, it's in between the anonymate and the growings. So when you eat salt, basically, you do a big fixing of what? Of a soul that reincarnates so low, almost anonymate. We can't eat things that are anonymate. You can't eat a table. How can I fix the table fully? Because full fixing is when you eat something. When you eat something, that thing becomes a part of you. You can't eat a table. You can't eat a... We don't do it, right? So, but the salt you can eat. And that's why using salt in food, that's a big elevation of sparks of a soul that is very low to a very high place. That's why we need salt to be in food. By the way, a lot of people, they do it the wrong way. They use salt. For example, some people that are very lazy, they have the bread on Shabbat or on a regular day. They make amotzi lechem min haaretz. Instead of taking the bread and dip it 3 times on the salt, they do the opposite. They take the salt and they put it on the bread. That's not good. Why? Because the bread is kindness. The salt is judgment. We want to sweeten the judgment. So you take the bread and you on the salt. But if you put the salt on the bread, you do the opposite. You put the judgment on the kindness. And that's not good. Yeah, so that's why everything that we do, it's very specific. We have to be very. I saw people. I came to their house and they take, instead of dipping the bread and the salt, they take the salt and put it on the bread. That's wrong. That's not the right way. We have to do the way that our rabbis teach us to do that. Be'ezrat Hashem, there's a lot of things that we can speak about salt. I just said maybe 1%. Aval, we don't have time anymore. If we're gonna summarize the knowledge that we spoke today, maybe a few points that are very important to take with us home is, like we said in the beginning when we talked about the Dead Sea, that the Dead Sea teaches something. The salt in the Dead Sea become there. The salt is there because the Dead Sea has a way, as a character, we'll call it, of taking without giving. And that's what there's a lot of salt means, judgments. In life, the most important thing is to learn to be a giver. Hashem gives us. And when He gives us and we don't give it fully, whatever He gives, we have to give out. We have to be, at the end of the day, we have to be like a pipe. A pipe that whatever takes in, gives out. And if we take to ourselves and we don't give it out, so salt becomes in our body, in our life, in our energy level. And salts mean judgments and problems. When we see a problem in life, it means at that place we don't give enough. At that place we take. We're a Dead Sea. We don't behave like the Kinneret, like the lakes. We behave like a salty water. And that's the place where we have to change. I think that's one of the most important lessons that we have to take from this class today. Be'ezrat Hashem, I want to bless all of you. Hashem will give you a lot of success, a lot of bracha, a lot of atzlacha. Be'ezrat Hashem, you see nachat from your kids. Be'ezrat Hashem, from your husbands and wives. Be'ezrat Hashem. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.